Think about how your daily life felt back in like 2019 versus today.
Oh, it's night and day for most people.
It really is. I mean, if you feel like you used to live a life that was forward moving and, playful, but today you're just executing this sort of hollow, compressed schedule, you aren't crazy.
No, you're definitely not. You're experiencing a documented, society-wide psychological fracture.
Exactly. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are diagnosing a pervasive, lingering feeling that pretty much everyone has been wrestling with since 2020. That feeling that our shared reality fundamentally broke.
Right. We're looking at a massive structural shift in collective consciousness. And to unpack the mechanics of what actually happened, we're pulling from a really insightful, highly analytical video essay by a creator named Jet Franzen.
Yeah, his video is titled WTF Happened After 2020.
Right. And his central thesis captures something that I think is deeply validating for anyone dealing with underlying burnout right now. He argues that pre-2020, we just didn't take things quite so seriously.
Yeah, we were working toward goals, but we were actually enjoying the ride.
Exactly. But now, life just feels compressed into these rigid schedules. It's hyper-digitized and kind of entirely stripped of its former liveliness. And we'll be analyzing this through a sociological and psychological lens, looking at exactly why our shared reality fragmented.
Right, because this isn't just about the obvious public health crisis. It goes way deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, the most immediate, undeniable behavioral shift of that era was the forced retreat to the internet.
We basically took everything and shoved it behind glass.
Yeah, friendships, dating, entertainment, work. But the source makes a really critical distinction about that exact moment. The internet stopped being an asset that we used, and it morphed into a place we actively live vicariously through.
Which is a profound shift. Going from a tool to an environment changes everything about human cognition. Like when a hammer is just a tool, you put it down when the house is built.
Makes sense.
But when the internet becomes your environment, you never leave. I mean, look at the explosion of parasocial relationships.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Explain what that means for anyone who might not know.
So a parasocial relationship is essentially a one-sided psychological bond. Your brain is processing a podcaster or a YouTuber as a close personal friend because, well, you hear their voice and see their face every single day.
Even though they don't know you exist.
Exactly. Evolutionarily, our brains are wired to believe that if we see someone daily, they are part of our immediate tribe. It tricks your social satiation meters, giving you this illusion of community without any of the actual neurological benefits of physical connection.
That is so wild. I was thinking about this, and the best way I can describe it is it's like we all used to live in the same town square, right?
Okay, I like that analogy.
But now we live in these windowless rooms where the wallpaper is constantly changing based entirely on what keeps us staring at the walls.
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly it.
My wallpaper is completely different from your wallpaper, even if we're sitting right next to each other on the exact same couch.
Right, because everyone is operating on a totally different, hyper-personalized algorithmic feed. Reality itself becomes fragmented.
And the danger isn't just the isolation, right? It's that over time, you forget the wallpaper is flat. You kind of lose your depth perception.
Yes. If you only ever see curated, algorithm-approved, two-dimensional ideas that are tailored to your specific biases, you lose the cognitive flexibility to handle three-dimensional, unpredictable human beings in the real world.
And people who contradict you.
Exactly. Which explains the massive loss of nuance we see everywhere today. When you're staring at that hyper-personalized wallpaper, that algorithmic consumption overtakes your personal identity.
It's acting like a drug.
It literally is. The algorithm isn't just feeding you content, it is shaping your mental framework. The smartest engineers in the world have weaponized variable reward schedules.
Which is the exact same psychological mechanism that makes slot machines addictive, right?
Yes, exactly. They engineer these dopamine prediction errors to make doom scrolling as addictive as humanly possible. The creator actually argues this deserves a legitimate psychological diagnosis. It artificially substitutes real-world experiences.
So if you are listening to this right now, I really want you to look at your own daily habits. How much of your current mental framework, your vocabulary, or even like your sense of humor feels self-generated?
Right, versus curated by what you're being served on a screen every day.
Because this digital isolation doesn't just stay confined to our phones, it bleeds directly into our physical reality. If we follow that thread, we see a massive erosion of actual community spaces.
Yeah, sociologists refer to this as the elimination of the third place.
The third place. Break that down for us.
So for a healthy, balanced society, human beings require three distinct environments. Place one is the home, Place 2 is the workplace. And Place 3 is a dedicated social community space.
Like a cafe or a park or a local bowling alley.
Exactly. Somewhere, you exist simply to be around other people without any sort of transactional purpose.
Yeah.
But the sudden mass shift to remote work violently merged the home and the workplace into a single location.
Right. Your living room is now your office.
And because of that, for a massive portion of the population, the energy or even the financial resources to maintain that third social space just evaporated.
And the psychological fallout of losing that space is immense. I mean, the source points out this generational contrast. If you look at older generations, they had to rely on physical spaces to navigate boredom.
Right, they had no other choice.
Exactly. If you were a kid in the 1990s and you were bored, you didn't have a frictionless digital dopamine dispenser in your pocket. You had to use your imagination.
You had to physically walk outside,
Yeah.
knock on a neighbor's door, and coordinate a game.
Yeah. You had to navigate the actual friction of organizing other human beings.
Which is basically the development of the prefrontal cortex. Unstructured physical play and organic socialization are literally how we build the cognitive pathways for spontaneous conflict resolution.
And empathy, right?
Yes, you learn to read microexpressions, body language, tone of voice. You learn how to de-escalate tension. But there is a massive developmental concern for Gen Z and the generations following them, because these problem-solving skills, these interpersonal muscles, are basically atrophying.
The creator argues that this makes them potentially incredibly difficult to collaborate with in the future workforce.
Right. We're seeing a young workforce that struggles immensely with basic collaboration. Social interactions post-2020 feature noticeably less eye contact, way higher baseline anxiety, and just a complete normalization of ghosting.
Because the physical confrontation of ending a relationship is too neurologically overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's too much friction.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure. Go ahead.
Is it actually fair to place this blame on the younger generation? I mean, they were handed these hyper-addictive algorithms and now generative AI tools, right, during their critical developmental years.
That's a great point. And to be fair, the source explicitly says it is nothing against them personally. It's not about blame. It's about the outcome.
Right.
Regardless of whose fault it is, the reality is that a 22-year-old entering the workforce today often physically panics when a phone rings. That is a structural deficit. They simply walked into a life where the friction of problem solving was systematically removed for them.
Which totally makes sense.
I mean, when you hand a middle schooler ChatGPT, you are completely bypassing the cognitive struggle required to synthesize information. The muscle atrophies because it isn't being used.
And the result is they interact via these subconscious internet scripts.
Yes. Rather than naturally flowing conversation, they honestly don't know how to handle dead air.
But honestly, it's not just the technology keeping people inside. We have to connect the social isolation to the economic pressures, too.
Oh, absolutely.
If the real world outside of those digital walls is punishingly expensive, it makes perfect sense why people retreat back to the frictionless environment of their screens.
The macroeconomic reality is a massive variable here. The source talks about this stark, historically unprecedented divide between the 99% and the 1%.
Yeah, he mentions how you can open your phone and immediately see some rich influencer spending millions of dollars on an F1 trip to Monaco.
Right, while simultaneously watching the middle class basically go extinct around you. Purchasing power has plummeted. People have so much less freedom for the exact same amount of labor compared to earlier generations.
The juxtaposition is what causes the distress. You are working just as hard as your parents did, but your labor buys a fraction of the freedom.
Exactly.
Because of that, all those traditional milestones, buying a starter home, having kids, getting career stability, they are being pushed from people's mid-20s deep into their mid-30s.
Which will have staggering long-term societal impacts. I mean, just look at the birth rates.
It's crazy, and there's this really brilliant example in the analysis regarding the TV show Outer Banks.
Oh, right. The lockdown phenomenon.
Yes. Everyone was obsessed with this 2020 show about these teenagers who had zero responsibilities, just running around outside, going on a treasure hunt. Everyone kind of projected their hopes onto that show.
They thought post-lockdown life would be this incredible, spontaneous adventure.
Right. The collective mindset was, once we get out of this, life is going to be a treasure hunt. But instead, real life happened. Lockdowns ended, and people stepped back outside into a declining economy and just had to get jobs.
That shattered expectation is the defining psychological wound of the post-2020 era. When the traditional path forward seems blocked, it breeds deep systemic frustration.
Which perfectly explains the absolute boom in side hustles and creator careers post-2020. I mean, if the real world is that expensive and the corporate ladder is broken, you have to build your own parachute.
Everyone suddenly wanted to monetize their hobbies to escape the grind, and honestly, questioning that corporate ladder was one of the few net positives to come out of this era. However, this reckoning collided perfectly with the overnight arrival of AI. Just as people pivoted to freelance work to find freedom, AI fundamentally altered expectations of what work and creativity will look like moving forward.
So you have a population that is digitally isolated, socially atrophied, economically squeezed, and constantly anxious about being replaced by software.
It's a very potent mix.
It really is. And that cocktail leads to a very specific emotional fallout. It leads to a society absolutely steeped in cynicism.
A profound defensive cynicism. We have witnessed a massive decline in institutional trust since 2020. Trust in big pharma, in media, in credentialed experts, even in strangers, it has all plummeted.
And it is important to impartially note that the creator explicitly states this loss of trust occurred with good reason.
Right, just given the events of the time. But people now rely on niche online communities for answers, finding people with the exact same mental framework.
Yeah, and the creator uses this amazing analogy from his time doing door-to-door sales. He said you have to mentally train yourself to expect a 99% rejection rate.
Right, you build a shield of expected disappointment.
Exactly. And society has adopted this mindset. We just expect to be disappointed. Optimism is actively mocked online, and irony completely dominates our culture. Even though, as the source points out, the optimist is the only one who actually wins.
It's a defense mechanism.
But let me ask you this. If these niche online communities feel like a safe haven for people who have lost trust, what is the danger there? Doesn't that help?
It provides the illusion of a safe haven, but it's actually highly dangerous. This retreat creates massive confirmation bias. We think we're getting real answers, but we're just retreating into echo chambers of the exact same archetype of person.
So it just isolates us further from the broader world.
Exactly. It eliminates friction. And human beings require friction to grow. If you never encounter a dissenting opinion, you never have to pressure test your own beliefs.
It's just a self-fulfilling cycle of isolation. But the most compelling part of this entire deep dive is that recognizing this cycle is the first necessary step to breaking it.
Right. You have to see the trap to get out of it.
The creator shares this really vulnerable realization about his own life. He spent his sophomore year entirely isolated in his room, and what should have been a temporary phase turned into a permanent state.
That calcification is the silent epidemic here. The temporary bunker became a permanent residence for millions of people.
But his solution isn't some abstract philosophy. He literally says he is going to the airport in a few hours to force himself to experience the physical world.
Which is incredible.
He frames it as this ultimate choice. You can choose an uncomfortable heaven or a familiar hell.
The familiar hell is the absolute safety of staying isolated in your room, entirely mediated by screens. It is comfortable, but it's hollow.
And the uncomfortable heaven.
That is the anxiety of stepping outside, trying something new, and experiencing genuine human friction.
So for you, listening to this right now, you are the only person who can intervene in your own life. If your day-to-day feels compressed and hollow, it is time to brave the awkwardness. You have to willingly cross that border back into the real world.
Because no algorithm is going to program a fulfilling life for you. Re-engaging with that physical friction is the only way to rebuild the social muscle we've collectively lost.
I couldn't agree more.
Which leaves us with a final, broader thought to consider, building on everything we've talked about today. If algorithms and economic pressures have successfully fragmented our shared reality into hyper-personalized, isolated feeds, what will be the new physical medium or cultural event capable of bringing a fractured society back together in the real world?
That's a huge question.
It is. And more importantly, when it happens, are you ready to participate?